one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Karen, could you read our mission statement?
District 413 develops the potential of each learner for success in a changing world.
Thank you. First item is approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion or corrections or additions? If not, we'll vote. The agenda is approved. Our next item is our Tiger Spotlight. Tonight we are honoring Fatima and Monica for their service on the board. I would myself just like to thank you, and it's been a pleasure having both of you serve for this year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, in the next chapter of your life. So we're going to take a picture.
Were they going to tell us what they're doing, what their future plans are?
What are your plans?
I'm going to SMSU to major in biology.
I'm going to NDSU to double major in mathematics and computer science.
That sounds easy. Scott, you going to do it, or you going?
You go for it.
Good man.
Yes, we do.
Congratulations. Marvelous.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, as everybody kind of runs for cover so they're not in the background. Ready? Smile, Kurt.
Woo!
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
You guys want to give us your top 50 things that you learned, each one of you?
50?
Top 50.
That's a lot.
How about your favorite board member?
Oh, that's easy. I'm
Thank
just
you.
kidding.
And just remember that,
Oh,
and just remember that only 2 of us know how to change grades, and graduation isn't until Friday. So, well, 1 maybe.
One that he's speaking.
It really, it has been a pleasure working with and getting to know both of you, and I think I echo those sentiments for the school board, and just very appreciative of all that you've done, and we're going to miss you guys. So.
Oh, thank you. I'll miss you guys too.
Me too.
We'll stop by.
Awesome.
Next item is our public forum. Anybody from the public? I don't see anybody. Move on to our presentation. Austin DeMuth from the Pride in the Tiger Foundation. Welcome, Austin.
So when I first started putting this together, Tricia didn't give me much direction on how much time, so I figured an hour and a half would be good. Is that good with you guys?
Definitely.
So to be in all fairness to the foundation, I did try to boil this presentation down to be very watered down. I wanted to, just give a quick 5 or 10 minute update on the foundation, and really what this conversation is all about is what is the next step for the foundation. The foundation was started in 1999. I'll give a little bit of overview that way. But before I do that, tonight is it's really about executive director. And what do we do? I mean, today we're at a part-time executive director role with which Bill Swope has served. And he's done everything and more than what the board has asked of him. And he has put in his official resignation to carry us through the end of our year, which is August 31st. And so as a board, we really struggled with, and we've been wrestling with it tirelessly to say, do we stay part-time? Do we go full-time? How do we kind of move forward as an organization? And so I'll talk about this, but kind of tonight I just really wanted to talk about the foundation overview, because of this key challenge that we have, myself and Janelle Wartner, another board member, we attended a national conference in St. Louis just made up of education foundations. I want to share a little bit with that. And then obviously our proposal and what our board is looking to do as we move forward. So tonight is really, it's just more about awareness. In my mind, it's about sharing with the school board where we're at as a foundation. And we, I guess when you look at the foundation and the school district right now, we just feel like the partnership is as strong, if not the strongest, that it's ever been in the history of the foundation. And so we really took a step back and said, who are some of the key constituents that we want to make sure are aware of what we're doing? And the chamber is one of them that we've reached out to give a little update. Matt, you had a chance to listen to the community services, nothing quite this formal, but there. And then the school board was another one that we just wanted to, more awareness, because I truly believe as we move forward, our board and our key constituents just have to be in full support of this. And I think to some degree, if especially our board is not in full support, which they are, it's just tough to make a full-time person work that way. So I'll move forward here real quick. But as I mentioned, the foundation started in 1999. We've come a long way since then, but we currently have 15 to 20. We're currently at 15 volunteer board members, and currently with a part-time executive director. And I'd say today, Bill probably puts in, and Kurt, you might know this better than I do, but probably 30 to 40 hours a month. So it's, what he's doing part-time today is, it's right what we're looking for, but we're looking to look forward with a little bit more. And I shared this at the senior banquet last week, but last year we ended up funding 46 classroom grants for a little over $63,500 of just, math blocks, smart boards, all those kinds of classroom grants that we see. And then awards of scholarships, 69 scholarships last week for a little over $124,000 of scholarships from the endowment side. So with assets at about $2.2 million. So we just kind of looked at it and said, where do we go? What do other foundations look like of our size? So we attended this conference in St. Louis. There was 35 different states there, over 150 education foundations, primarily K through 12. There were a couple universities there, but it was the bulk of representation. And this is what we found. Most of the foundations are set up in three major platforms. The kind of what I'll start on the right side is their endowment. That's going to be what we give out in scholarships every year, those 169 scholarships. The classroom grants. By the way, what we found K through 12 nationwide is we have something real special in Marshall. Foundations that we met from Texas and Oklahoma and California, and with a school district of our size, there's not many. There's a couple that have as many assets on the endowment size as we do. So if I were to look at our scorecard, above average, average, or below average on the endowment side, we're definitely what I would say above average for a district of our size. Classroom grants, that's another side that we play in. But if you were to look at a scorecard, above average, average, below average, I would say that we're very much probably in the middle of below average to average on what we do today for classroom grants. There's a lot of examples that we found out there with districts of our size raising anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 a year of just classroom grants. And then another area that we found is capital projects. These are going to be the big ideas of what the school board has. So this could be, let's say that there's a motion to move forward, and we want every student to have from grades 6 through 12, we want iPads to be administered, and we come up with a budget, and let's say it's a $300,000 budget. It might be a 2 or 3 year project, but today our foundation is just, that's not something that we just don't have the infrastructure for it. We're not set up that way, but that's just kind of what we found from other foundations across the nation, that they had that capability or latitude to help the district look at some of those big ideas and help create an initiative around it. So that's kind of what we saw. and I think eventually this is what we see today. Our structure is a little bit different, but really, there's a big question. Does the executive director report, to the district or the superintendent, or how does that work? And there's, I think, a lot of different philosophies on that, but we're starting, and what we found is that you're really seeing that executive director just report to the board. Arm's length transaction. That way, if we are in the middle of a capital project of trying to raise dollars for those iPads, there's clear cut, there's no direction coming right from the district, and that's, there's a segregation there. So really, that's kind of how we see it moving forward, is that full-time executive director is really going to be supported by some interns, volunteers, and then eventually over time you start to see more of an administration role that will help open the mail and answer phones and things like that. So that's what we found. So real quick, there's a ton of detail behind this, so I really wanted to water it down for this, but based on what we found and where we feel like we are as a foundation, our recommendation as a board, and the board has approved to move forward with a full-time executive director. So tonight is really about, I think it's awareness. We just want to make sure that there's transparency with what the foundation's doing. But the executive director would report to the board, and the primary focus is to build awareness within our community, business partners, and alumni. I mean, if you think about today, alumni is a prime example that we don't have a database of alumni. We don't send an annual mailer. We don't touch our alumni. It's zero today. It's very reactive that way. And it's just, you look at the opportunity, and I'll show you some of these projections on how this could look in 5 years, but it's amazing. So what we're going to ask this executive director to do, and this is a very watered down job description, but everything that Bill's doing today, but we really want him to have a focus on raising dollars for classroom grants, endowment, in those capital projects going forward. So this wasn't supposed to make the slide, the comp piece, but I'll share that with you. Through our research, we found that, there's kind of a bottom of 32.5 is really what we found for these executive directors, all the way up to 80, some thousand plus. So we're kind of targeting for that 48.5. So again, that's great information to share with you guys. If there's any questions on how we came up with that. Other considerations. This was great, Bill. Thanks for the update. I put this together at about 11:30. Razor's edge, like razor. We're raising dollars. So, but there's a couple considerations that we have to take in consideration today. I mean, we have no software. I think Excel spreadsheets would be a stretch for us on how we track information. So creating that alumni database, there was actually a really good recommendation we had from one of the foundations. They literally, when they started where we are in the evolution, they went and found yearbooks for like 30 years. They went and got yearbooks, and then they hired interns and volunteers that come in and just go through those yearbooks and start typing names. And if you were in, hockey or soccer or link crew or gymnastics or whatever it was, swimming, and then you can store all that information in the database. And it's a lot of dirty work to start building that alumni platform, but we got to do that. So, the way that we're looking at this is it's a 3-year commitment to the executive director, because it's going to take time. What we found at this conference is, on average, it takes about 3 calls before the executive director can really sit with a investor, if you will, and ask them, have the right to ask for money. Bill, you'd probably know some of the stats on that a little bit better, but really they said that if your board doesn't have full support for the executive director, you usually will see burnout within that 14 to 16-month period. Because what happens is, by the time you make the first touch point to your donor, it's just an introduction, and then 6 months goes by, you get your second call on them, and then your third call. So about that time when you're in on your third call to raise actual dollars for the foundation, the board's got their thumb on the executive director saying, well, where's the results? How come we're not seeing anything yet? It just takes time. So, I think some of the considerations for this, and Scott, we've talked a little bit about this, but it's, currently Bill has an office at the high school, And so, that is one of the key considerations that we would look, is that whoever our next executive director, whether that's here at the district office or continuing to have a office at the high school would be huge. One other thing that I'm not prepared to talk about tonight, but if you look at the dollars that we raised today through our Dektronics contract, 75% of those per contract are to come back to Marshall Public Schools because of where the Dektronics board is housed at. And so long-term, depending on how all this structure works out with the comp and some of that, we'll probably have to look at that contract and figure out how it best works and things of that nature. So that'll be on there. Timeline, we're looking to post this in May here. June, we'd like to accept applications for the month of June, make an offer by the end of July. And it's a very tight timeline, but we're hoping to have someone up and running August. And that what that would do is give that candidate 25 or 30 days roughly to be with Bill before he departs. So it's aggressive. Don't know if we're going to get there, but you always got to have a goal, right? So here, this is what we had put together, and this was really based off of a 5-year plan that we found from other foundations of our size, our school district. But I just want to, Tricia, how do I do the green one? So if you look today, I mean, this is roughly where we're at today on totals of what we're raising. It's give or take a little bit. But where you're really going to see some of our projection growth here is if you just look at alumni. And they shared some statistics with us at, if you take 30 years worth of graduating seniors with an average class size of 200 on average, and you're only getting, I don't know what I did on the projection, I can't remember, but like 20% penetration. And of those 20%, they're only given $100. I think these are probably low projections, but if you come out 5 years on a school district of our size, there's foundations across the country that are doing these numbers pretty easily. So it's a draft by all means. Obviously, we can't project what the future is, but we're just trying to look at what could this be down the road. There's no guarantees to that, as we all know. So that was my real quick update. I wasn't kidding about an hour and a half. I mean, we could talk about this for an hour and a half. There's a lot of detail, a lot that went behind it. We're really excited. We feel like if our foundation, we could make a decision to stay where we are today and we'd be just fine. The foundation's always going to have some endowment. We're going to have some nice classroom grants, and that'd be fine. But I think there's a point where the foundation and the evolution, you either become brown and dying or green and growing, if you will. And it's our wish as a board to keep this green and growing and provide more opportunities and just better opportunities financially for our students who graduate, whether that's the seniors or all the way down. Remember, our classroom grants do cover public and private schools, so it's across the board. So that's all I had. I just wanted to provide a real quick update. I don't know if there's any questions or
Something common at the conference you went to, the foundations cover the parochial schools too?
No. In fact, most of them were primarily dedicated to just maybe even to a level of high school. We found that depending on the size of and how their campuses were broken up, we found some, you might have the elementary school has a foundation, the junior high and the high school has a foundation. So it kind of depended upon the community. But what we tried to look for was student population of our size and kind of a similar footprint, and then really just dig in and say, do you have a full-time executive director? Do you have a part-time? How does the compensation work and all that? So, which kind of leads into some of how we came up with those numbers. But, it kind of depends on who the candidate is, too. Steps forward. So, great.
Austin, excuse me, the school district right now is giving you space. Do we provide any administrative clerical support at all, or just purely space?
Well, there was at one point, La was serving as our treasurer, and I maybe back in the day she was on the payroll. I believe, but as of recent, that has changed as she is retired and stepped down fully. But, that's a great question, Bill, because, if you look at the structure of what we found other foundations doing, perhaps there's a conversation to be had, could we get, maybe 10 hours a week of a district member to help with some of those, whatever it may be, administrative roles or making phone calls or things like that. But I mean, we're not there yet.
Have we looked at like internship classes to have a student come in and do their internship with the Pride and Tiger?
Yeah, I mean, we have not, got to that level of detail yet, but that's exactly what we found other foundations are doing, whether it's in the English department or the business department. They're really leveraging those internships to give resume builders. It's a real nice two-way street for the foundation and for the student to develop that. So, hopefully that will evolve. I think right now, if we can get the foundation built around the executive director and then help them build that footprint around them, I think could be a really great, yeah.
Too, I didn't hear, I heard last year, what percentage of the people that are the students that sent in an application received scholarships this year? You guys were aiming for 100%, or?
Yep. Great question. Kurt, do you know that?
I don't know the exact number, Dion, but it's a very high amount. So if we have 180 seniors, let's just say approximately there was 30 of them that didn't apply.
Okay.
And so that leaves 150, let's just say, and of those, I bet 98% of them.
So you're close, you're very close to that 100%.
Yeah, and that, that's kind of the qualified is the key question, right? I think that we've made comments in the past about, our goal is to give every graduating senior a scholarship. I mean, that's a great goal, but in the end, it's the qualified candidates, right? But
And some are disqualified because of if they have any violations. So that immediately. And then there's some that might apply, but due to academic being extremely low, that committee that makes those decisions might decide that doesn't qualify.
Sure.
But again, it's an extremely high percentage.
Yeah.
You give kids whether they're going to a 4-year or a 2-year.
Yep.
4-year or 2-year, or is there military included? Just 4-year and 2-year?
Maybe post-secondary.
And that's a great point too, is that, our foundation is more what I would say the keeper of the dollars, but there is a scholarship committee who makes those decisions on the foundation's behalf. Bill does go to that meeting and he sits in on it, but the actual decisions are not made by the foundation. It is a scholarship committee, which is nice because then it keeps that arm's length transaction there, and we can do what we do best, and that's be the host of the dollars, if you will, and let the scholarship committee make those decisions. So that is important to understand too.
Austin, how are you planning on supporting the additional cost of a full-time position as compared to, Bill's position now? Assuming you have a plan or...
Yeah, well, it's a great question. What we found is, clearly today, there's not a lot of places that foundations pull money from unless you have corporate dollars behind you. So use an example of like an Avera Foundation. Their executive director is not self-funded by the foundation. There's a corporate payroll behind it, if you will. So in a foundation of ours, educational foundation, it's self-funded, if you put it that way. So there's really only a couple places you can pull dollars, from your endowment, which there's a lot of debate, on how much you can pull off of your endowment before it becomes overhead. So really what we found is a lot of these dollars are coming from the dollars raised. And I guess statistically about 25% of your fundraising dollars over time is what would be allocated towards overhead. So that's kind of the benchmark, I guess, of what we found. So yes, that is our big challenge right now, is that we raise enough dollars right now that we can do that. But if you look at those key ratios or metrics, as you evolve, those are going to be high for the first year or two, until you can get that fundraising dollar up, which will decrease the percent that you're taking off of the dollars raised. So primarily, it will come from dollars raised and increasing dollars raised. So it's interesting when we started to look at the comp, but really from what we're paying Bill today versus the increase in compensation, there's probably about a $30,000 delta there that the new executive director is going to have to come on board and, really try to raise their own income, if you will, those first few years, just to break even. So it's an investment. There's no question.
Any other questions? Well, we sure appreciate everything you and Kurt and everyone on the board does for this community and the schools. So thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Austin.
Yep. Have a great night.
Our next item is our consent agenda. I'll make a motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. That is approved. Our next, our financial report, our bills for this month, Mr. Lamprecht.
Mr. Chair and board members, our bills for the period of April-May by fund category are as follows. The general fund, $1,131,329.66. The food service fund, $150,960.06. Transportation fund, $161,072.65. The community services fund, $9,808.52. Capital outlay fund, $63,269.01. The construction fund, $293,984.91. And then the student entrepreneurial fund, $230.80. That makes a grand total of $1,810,655.61. And I would recommend approval of our bills for the period April-May. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll make a motion. I have a second.
I'll second.
Any more discussion or questions? If not, I'll call for the vote. And the bills are approved. Any comments on the treasurer's report? Bruce?
I would just say we're on target in regards to our year-to-date budget for expenditures, specifically the general fund. We're looking to be in a pretty good place at this point. So,
Good. Next item, board updates or reports. Does anybody have anything they want to share? I will share that Scott and I were in the Community Services Director's interview process, and Karen was too, as she took them all on interviews, and we think it went very well. We did make an offer to a lady from Casson Mantorville, waiting to hear her decision, so that's where we're at on that. Anything else? The next item is a tour, but we're not going to do that.
We're not, but Harry did say today, if any of you would like a tour, he can do that during the day. You can go on your lunch hour, anything. So if you wanted it, if it didn't work tonight, you still want to see it, he's happy to run you through.
Next item are administrative reports. Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, I'll go through some of the reports and just pick a few things out of each one, or I did that earlier today. In my report, just a reminder to everyone that on actually a week today, beginning at noon with lunch. We're going to have our first annual celebration of staff excellence. Administration and school board will be volunteering to help serve lunch, and then we'll have a program starting at 1 o'clock, and both of those will take place in the high school cafeteria. In my report, I included a legislative update, although the wheels are spinning slowly down there, I believe, and there's some caution or concern about maybe this being a nothing happened session, so we'll see. And then,
You're in town again on the 26th, too.
okay, that's right, they have a town hall meeting or something along those lines, yep. And then I shared an enrollment update, and as it illustrates, we increased by 12 students district-wide during the month of April. From the Parkside Elementary report, just some exciting information about first grade being published authors and a couple of service learning, I'll call them projects, but focuses, one at kindergarten and one in the ILC, and just the learning that takes place with those for the kids. West Side report, there's an update on summer school. We've seen a growing number of students enrolled for summer school, and I think there's a few items on the agenda tonight about, in the consent agenda, about adding staff to accommodate that. And then also Jeremy had shared some information about a title or federal program literacy update. Middle school board report, some really good information about STEAMed information, just in terms of the programming that's taking place and what the kids have been involved in. Sort of a limited number of students, but some of the experiences that they've had are pretty strong and pretty powerful. And then information about project success, and again also after school program update and information, and sort of an end of the year wrap up. The high school report, a variety of things, including a testing update and information about several awards, banquets, and recognitions that have taken place, including the Pride in the Tiger Foundation Senior Scholarship Banquet last week, which was outstanding. At Maytech, or in Michelle's report, some information about some circle groups that are being implemented at Maytech to just help students with a variety of different things. And then also a short paragraph about Cooking Matters for Teens and something exciting that happened there. In the Activities Department report, variety of updates from the Minnesota State High School League. Bill and I actually met with Bruce Remy, I think it was end of last month or something, and talked about, from our district, what the State High School League was asking districts about. I think their board is seeing some things happen, probably primarily in the metro area, and they want feedback from all districts in Minnesota. So we provided that to Bruce, who then shared it with the State High School League. And also, Bruce had shared some information about the scoreboards being replaced in the middle school here, and some partnerships that have taken place to make that happen. In the Director of Teaching and Learning report, we'll be offering some SIOP, Sheltered Instructional Observation Protocol, I believe. So what SIOP stands for, training this summer. We did a pilot this year for a limited number of staff and had really good results and feedback, and I think it'll be a way to continue to improve teaching and learning in the district. And then Amanda had shared some information about our Makeup Day and what's taking place on May 23rd in the morning. And the other two reports I'll let Bruce and our young ladies report on.
I'll defer to our soon-to-be graduate.
Thanks.
Marshall High School graduation is this Friday. Maytech is tomorrow. Last day of school is on May 19th. We had 4 students compete at nationals in Denver, Colorado for speech this past weekend, and for the first time in Marshall speech history, a student advanced to finals and placed second. BPA competed in nationals in Boston, Massachusetts on May 6th through the 9th. The high school choir concert was last Monday, and there's a band and orchestra concert tonight.
Middle school concerts were on the 5th. Fairmont Golf Tournament, girls placed first, boys placed third. Preschool had their graduation the week of May 9th. Parkside had their class plays last week, and elementary and middle school field trips were last week, while the high school had finals, so that's nice.
We're all done with that.
Yep, I am.
I just have a final paper to start and finish.
Thanks, girls.
I would just mention the community food service program, free breakfasts and lunches. That's going to be starting in June. We're going to be publicizing that with a public service announcement, something in the Independent. And so that's a good program that hasn't had as much participation as we'd like to have it. It'll be housed this year out of the high school and Parkside School. So starting in June, that'll be getting going.
Are you going to put flyers up in the weight rooms just because kids are using that, it seems like, during the summertime? Maybe just another reason to funnel them in?
We will do that. So they can go from the weight room to lunch, or start with breakfast.
You
and
have
then
to
go
eat at
the
some
weight
point.
room. Okay. We had our Home Runs for Health. That was our Tiger Wellbeing program, and that was a great success. We had a lot of participation. Our staff was interested and really did put in a lot of hours and 15-minute periods, 15-minute blocks, and so we're pleased by that. And then the HVAC air handler project that we have going on here at the middle school is well underway, and once school lets out, they're really going to get at it. So that's our ESG Honeywell project, and moving along just very well.
Thanks, Bruce. Any questions on any of those reports?
No, I just wanted to throw out after, there's a fundraiser tonight at Pizza Ranch for a couple of the speech girls that are going to nationals. So.
Next item is discussion on the referendum.
Disappointing.
Well, there are a couple agenda items coming up here that relate to that. Probably first and foremost, that a lot of people put a lot of energy and provided a lot of really good ideas into sharing information and did a lot of good work leading up to the referendum, and certainly want to say thank you to all of them. I think everyone in our district office, especially Bruce and Tricia and Carla, did a really good job and helped us stay on track, and want to publicly acknowledge the work that certainly the three of you did. We've talked about and we're planning to get our school board facilities committee together, I believe after the June 6th work session, school board work session, and just talk about what are our plans for the future in terms of addressing our space needs and maintaining our class size limits, and where do we go from here, essentially. And certainly I would anticipate that committee will share information with the whole board and see what happens from there. So just wanted to make sure I said thank you to everybody.
Has there, since it's so fresh, has there been any talk about doing a survey or a town hall type meeting to help the facilities committee start looking at this, both from whoever voted yes and no, to try and get a new look at it?
There hasn't been, Dion. That doesn't mean that there won't be. It's probably something that would take place if the facilities committee felt like it was beneficial, which I think we would believe that it is. Then it's something that we would try to figure out how to do. It's a tough time because obviously school's getting out and whatnot, but I think things like that can be really valuable.
I know you specifically thank Bruce and Tricia and Carla, and we need to thank you too. I know you put a lot of work into it, and so thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll be able to vote next time, so I'll round up the whole board.
Our next item is an action item, approval to amend the election judges for May 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
We should just explain that you had previously approved judges, and then there was a situation involving one of them where They were not able to be there that day, so this is just a formality to let everybody know that there was a change that needed to be made, and just to continue to follow through the process from a legal perspective. A vote?
That is approved. Our next item is approval of resolution to canvass the returns of votes of the school district special election. I have a motion. I will make a motion. I have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? This is another formality.
Just in item number 2 on the first page here, you can see that it says there were 3,250 voters, 1,511 voted in favor, 1,735 opposed or against, and there were 4 blank or defective ballots. So I think we had initially utilized the number of 3,246, which is the combination of yes and no votes, but there were also 4 defective ballots.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. And that is approved. Our next item is approval of 16-17 Minnesota. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second. I'll second it. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If no discussion, I'll call for the vote. That is approved. Excuse me. Our next item is approval of the amended U.S. Bancorp leasing agreement. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Dion. Any discussion?
This is just an addendum to the current plan that we have with the U.S. Bank. We worked with them through 3 other one-to-one initiative purchases, and this is the 4th one, and it works very well for us, and certainly would recommend approval of this addendum to the contract.
Thank you, Bruce. I'll call for the vote. That is approved. Our final item is, I thought I was going to make it through. There, I got it back. Okay. Final item is approval of the student school board representatives. I'll make a motion that we approve. Second.
I'll second.
Bill and I and Scott interviewed 3 young people for this position, and we couldn't decide on just 2, so we've made a decision. They're all very well qualified. So.
Yeah. Thanks for replacing us.
Took 3 people.
We need a bigger table, but we thought it was worth it.
I think if we, it really would have been a difficult decision. These are 3 outstanding young people who I think are just going to add to their predecessors and the year before, and continue to do great work. And I think both of you have, at least one, if not both of you, have talked to them and encouraged them.
Yep.
So thank you for that, and looking forward to working with them.
Okay. I'll call for the vote. Approved. Anything else? If not, the meeting is adjourned.
What's going on down there?
What?
You
He
say,
never
you
does.
say second? Say something, say something louder.
Have people that
Go ahead. I was watching this like.
Sorry,
house.
Karen.
You're doing a great job.
It looks so good, but I.
That's okay.
Austin, thanks for
I'm-
staying
I'm
for the
on
whole
a-
thing.
Yeah, that was nice of you.
Never been to one before.
They're exciting, aren't they?
Yeah.
The-